Welcome to Bytes and Builders. This weekly podcast features inspiring startups and their innovative technologies. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur or a seasoned coder, this is your chance to be inspired and learn about the latest tech that startups have developed and meet the people behind the solutions. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie, and I am your host for Bytes and Builders. Thank you for joining us today. Please post on the comment box where are you watching us from. I am super honored to have Stefan, CTO and founder of Guardrails, at our show today. Let's have him up right away.
Hi, Julie.
Hi,
Hi, everybody.
Stefan. Hi, great to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Uh-huh. At Bytes and Builders, we feature startup founders like yourself, and today we are super excited to get to know you more as a CTO and founder and learn about Guardrails' story. Yeah? But before we hear your story, we'll do a little bit of a fun activity, some sort of an icebreaker. We call it Fast Talk. Are you up for that? Have you heard that before? All right.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay. What do you prefer, breakfast or dinner?
Definitely dinner.
Dinner. Cool, cool. And if you could travel through time, would you rather go to the future or to the past?
That's an easy one too. Definitely the future.
We're all excited for the future, aren't we?
Oh, for sure.
We have prepared so many questions about you and about guardrails, but before we get into that, I would like to quickly highlight our code of conduct here. We encourage everyone to be respectful and inclusive in your comments, and please have a great time. Please do post your questions in the chat, and we'll answer them during Q&A. Okay, I think they're all excited like me. Let's kick off our chat by letting you share a bit of a background about yourself. And I am curious to know if you've always been entrepreneurial. Are you a first time founder or a serial entrepreneur?
All right. So a bit about me, like I was actually lucky enough to get interested in computers at a very early age because back then my dad actually had a few computers lying around
Mhm.
in his clinic at home. And so since then, it was always my passion to be really deep into these things, which also led me to become quite interested in cybersecurity over the years. And so this has been pretty much my entire focus of my life, so to say, in terms of career, like nerding out, doing some cool tech stuff, and really focusing on figuring out how to make security work. But I was actually always quite a bit entrepreneurial because even when, well, actually, I only had one job interview in my entire career. And
Tell
that
us
was for
more.
an internship. That was for an internship right after university. And yeah, I got the internship. And actually, the fun fact is that even though I started as an intern for that organization, I ended up becoming a co-founder within a couple of years and opening offices for them in Singapore and in Thailand as well. And
Interesting.
so I've also, yeah.
Is that not related to Guardrails? Is something else company, is that right? So this is your like third, fourth startup
that,
now?
that is right. So that actually, I started my first businesses even during university, even as a consultant before that. So this proper incorporated business, I would say, is number four now.
Amazing, amazing. So lucky to be in front of a serial entrepreneur. I'm sure there are tons of things we can learn from you. Well, it's very hard to balance, wearing your business hat as well as your technical hat. Could you walk us through what is a day in the life of a CTO of Guardrails look like? Where do you spend
Yeah,
most of your
sure.
time?
It's actually, if you look at the entire journey, the responsibilities they change a lot over time as well, right? So in the early days when you
Evolves,
when you
right?
start out, exactly, you are doing everything all the time, and it's just like firefighting. And of course, as you get more people on the team, you can start really distributing or delegating these tasks. But yeah, I think for me nowadays, my main focus is, I think, spending, of course, time with customers, understanding how they're using our product, what the pain points are, because this really much influences also the product roadmap. And to me personally, the products and the roadmap are very, very close to my heart and very much what I want to spend a lot of time on. Of course, we also have sessions, getting the team together, understanding who is working on what, how we're actually progressing in these kind of things. But I'm also quite fortunate these days that I get to do quite a lot of deep technical stuff still. And
That's good.
especially in the last year, since we've started doing a lot of stuff with AI, it's been really a blast actually doing more and more on that front as well. And that's a privilege.
I love that. I love that. I'm glad that you're not spreading yourself too thin. Being in a lean startup, you still get to be the CTO, the chief architect. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, we talk a little bit about yourself. I'd like to learn more about Guardrails. What is Guardrails' superpower? Because you shared
Yeah.
about, speaking with your customers, really going deep with them and understanding their challenges. Tell us what Guardrails is all about. Superpower.
Yeah, interesting. So actually, the superpower, if you will, is that we give developers security skills or we give them security superpowers, right? So
Uh-huh.
um, having been involved in cybersecurity for quite a long time,
Yeah.
I've seen actually with quite a lot of organizations what the problem is in terms of getting security sorted, right? And I
Mm.
think one part of the equation is, of course, trying to figure out how to do security, how to detect all of these problems that you have,
Yep.
and but of course also making it easy for people to do the things that they want to do in their job, being like a developer or security engineers, and taking away all of the pain that they have with
Right.
dealing with tooling and all of the other things that nowadays can be automated. And so I think the superpower of us is that we focus more and more and more on making sure that the people actually using our product have a much better life, are much happier in terms of achieving security without all of the pain associated with it.
I love it. Like empowering developers to remain secured and compliant, but still being able to deliver their job easily. Um,
Correct.
I'd like to understand, as a CTO, what are the most challenging and rewarding aspect of your role? I'm sure you are also used to be a developer, and now that you're moving up that career ladder, are there ups and downs?
Oh, there's always ups and downs, and especially in startups, everybody telling you otherwise is definitely lying. But I think that's also part of the journey, right? Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I think what's really rewarding is working with people that you respect on a problem that is really something that you are passionate about. And I think that's also what makes the harder times easier because you know you're working on something that you deeply believe in, and you're working with people that you respect and that you appreciate to achieve these goals together. So I think that part is clearly very rewarding. And on top of that, of course, having people use the creation that you're putting out there, right? Having people
Mhm.
actually get value out of that, I think that's also right up there with the most rewarding things of this experience. And of course, the flip side of this coin is always when there's issues and there's bugs and there's the system may go down or something like that, and everybody has to scramble. And so there's always the flip side of all of these things. But I think that is also normal because at the end of the day, as long as you don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again and you get better, it's just part of the
Uh-huh.
journey. Yeah.
Right. So the way I'm seeing this conversation, you've never really been an employee. And I'm sure that a lot of our viewers right now are builders, developers in maybe some corporate companies. How can you encourage them? What advice do you give? What advice can you give to them should they wish to build something on their own and become a founder themselves? What advice? What are the framework? What's the thought
Mm.
process look like? And it's a little bit scary, right? Because it's a challenging path that you're taking.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think first things first, it's such a great time to be a builder. I think now,
Mhm.
if you look at the ecosystem that can support you, if you look at effectively the tools that are available, all of these things for starting a company, especially
Mhm.
as a builder, no better time than today. I think
I
also every
uh-huh. You're
single,
saying this is the best time to be a builder and be an entrepreneur.
absolutely,
Tell us
absolutely,
more.
because if you think about it, every single company out there right now, every single
Mhm.
software as a service dollar that exists, I think is up for grabs, which
Uh-huh.
means if you have like a deep insight,
Uh-huh.
and why is it up for grabs? Because of AI. It really changes the game, which I get to in a moment. But I think for anybody out there that actually wants to explore this, one piece of advice is, do something that you deeply believe in and are passionate about, because you will spend the time needed to actually make sure that you do all of these things well. You spend the extra hours, you go deep, and then you can do a lot of great things. But
Mhm.
what's maybe often the case is like, oh, it sounds good to be a startup founder. Let's do something, and then, oh, this
Uh-huh.
didn't work out. Try something else that didn't work out, and you pivot every couple of minutes or every couple of days or weeks.
Yep.
And I think it's really important to do it with a certain level of conviction, and also keep in mind that this is not like a quick get rich quick scheme. Yes, there are outliers and these kind of things, but
Uh-huh.
I think it's really important to make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into. You understand what it actually means, what you're actually building, and how you verify that. And then make use of all of the great resources out there. For example, Microsoft and IMDA, they are doing some really good things here to help startups get better traction, to help founders get compute credits and all of these things. So it's really a great time, and there's a lot of interesting problems that can be solved now.
I love what you said around the conviction and persistency, and that it takes a lot of hard work to build something, but there are so many tools available as well as organizations that are ready to support these builders to become more successful and maybe mitigate the risk of failing. It seems that
Mhm.
you're not stressed at all in this a very very stressful field. What's the secret? How do you balance that?
That's a good question. I think over the years, you build a bit of a thicker skin as well, right? Because especially when
Uh-huh.
you're working on something, there's always
Uh-huh.
competition, there's always other people doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think it's important that you focus on the things that you can actually control yourself, right? And
I love that.
yes, it's so
Control
easy
the
to get like, oh my God,
controllables.
look at this over here. Exactly. Look at all of these things happening. Everything is on fire. What's going on?
Yep.
Sure, but that's definitely a waste of energy and time. And I think, you know, just show up every day. Just focus on the things that you can control, and make things a little bit better every day. And keep doing this consistently, and things will work out.
I love that. Control the controllables and manage what you can control. Yep. You mentioned about AI earlier. I'd like to understand, how has AI changed the way business are built and operated? Like, wanna deeper that on that question a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. So it's still very early days, obviously, right? So it's been
Mhm.
what, not even 2 years since ChatGPT was launched, not like a year plus
Yeah,
since GPT-4 came out and these kind of things. And if you look at the industry, the AI industry, you can see there's a lot of excitement there, right? There's a lot of hype in
correct.
some to some degree,
Yes.
and a lot of interesting demos are being shown, but maybe not everything is quite polished yet. So there's a lot of things happening, but I think it's really important at a time like this to be at the forefront of understanding what AI actually brings, what kind of era is being ushered in, right? Because at the end of the day, nobody has all the answers right now. Everybody has just
Mhm.
like exciting information, exciting things that they can play around with. But I
Yeah.
think now the big opportunity is by really spending the time in these early days, understanding what can be done with these new models,
Yep.
how you can actually build a new business on top of that, how you actually price these kind of things, how can you now do things that were completely impossible a year ago, is
Yep.
very exciting.
Yeah.
So on the technology side of things, this means you can really think about a lot of these different aspects in terms of not just say use AI because AI is a hot commodity, but
Correct.
use AI in ways that really add value and really obsess about that.
Yep.
And
It,
there's one more thing. Sorry, just
go
to
ahead. Go ahead.
close
Yeah.
that off is not just on the technology side of things, but also on the business side of things.
Yep.
You have the opportunity to now rethink how to structure a business, right? Like, do you need the same huge team that you would have needed maybe a year or 2 years ago? or can you rethink certain things with AI in mind to automate more so that you can be a leaner startup, you have more
Mhm.
control, closer feedback loops, and really can focus on hiring people that are really adding a lot of value, and how AI can help them, almost clone of, or like be even more efficient than they
Yep.
are individually. And I think there's a huge opportunity on that front as well, because yeah,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you can apply AI in so many ways to be more efficient. And I think we'll see
Correct.
a lot of interesting new companies coming out that do these things really well, that start really contending with the big names and the big companies out there with much
Yes.
fewer resources.
Correct. My key takeaway there is not given to the hype, but understand the problem that you're trying to solve and what are the use cases that AI you can use AI for. I'm curious if you're using any AI capabilities on Guardrails right now. A
Oh
lot.
yeah, a lot. Actually, we are completely rebuilding our entire platform with AI in mind from the ground up,
Mhm.
to be completely AI native in a way that
Uh-huh.
allows us to harness the always improving capabilities that are coming out here with AI. And
Love
it's
that.
really interesting because you have to completely rethink how to structure this, how to architect these platforms of the future nowadays. So in the demo a
Correct.
little bit later, I can also share a little bit about that as well. But yeah, we're using it extensively in more and more parts of the business as well, not just the product.
Super excited to see that for later. Somebody asked on the chat, what is someone asked about Guardrails product name. Please tell me
Mhm.
your product name. I don't
The
know if you
product
understand
name.
that question. Yeah. Or
Well, actually, the product is the company name as well. So right now, it's Guardrails is the name of the company and the name of the product. So you can find it at guardrails.io for the traditional platform, and the new AI platform is going to be available at guardrails.ai.
cool. That's amazing. Since we are in the name Guardrails, tell us the history about the name. What made you come up with Guardrails? It is such a common name when you think about security, right? Who coined this name? How did you decide
Hmm.
to have Guardrails as your product or company name?
Yeah, interesting. So one of the hardest things in any undertaking is naming, right? How do you name
I can
something? Why do
imagine.
you name it a certain
Buying
way?
domain
It's
name.
hard. Exactly. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it's always like for guardrails, like back in when we started the company, it was very much, trying to understand, because back then security was still in a very much waterfall time and era, which means security was a roadblock. Security was like, hey, you finish a release, you have to give it to security. The security team looks at it, you have to wait, they review it, they give it back to you to fix things. And so it was very much like you have these gates where you have to go through to do something. But at the
Yep.
same time, you realize that that's not the way that software is being built already. And especially back then, you start seeing agile coming in and DevOps, and suddenly there's no more way for roadblocks when you do development. You need essentially to be able to go as fast as you can while having these guardrails on the side of the street, so you can go as fast as
Mhm.
possible. If something happens, they hold you on the lane, and you don't crash and burn, but you essentially can move fast and stay on the lane and stay secure. And so that's why it really resonated with us, because what we want to do is not be in the way of developers and
Yep.
organizations, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to build great products, create value
Yep.
for their customers, and do
Yep.
this as quickly and as inexpensively, but of the highest quality as possible. And with
Correct.
guardrails was very clear. We want to be the guardrails on that high speed development and business highway that allows you to
Uh-huh.
move fast and be secure.
I love that. It's like you are the enabler of a maybe perfect CI/CD pipeline. No, no stoplight. And I've been hearing this a lot. Shifting security to the left. What does that mean?
Hmm.
Tell us
That's
more.
also that's a good one. So if you look back at how security has evolved, especially when I started many years ago now, almost 20, security looked very differently, right?
Hmm.
Security was very much something that you do at the end of a life cycle. So developers write code, release gets built, and then it's like the waterfall example. Hey, dear security team or dear pen testing company, please look at this and give us a list of all the issues that you need to fix. You give it back, they do it, and you have this very long feedback loop where you're only checking it when everything is considered done by the development team or by the business.
And the right, to the right.
On the very right, correct. And what happens, maybe it's mirrored on my side, so it goes the wrong way. But yeah, anyway, so on the very right of things, correct. And what happened then is you have Agile and you have DevSecOps and DevOps. So you realize that if you don't get closer to where the software is being written to give the feedback, you're actually losing out. You're wasting so much time and effort. It's costing 100 times more to actually fix a bug that's in production than fix a bug that's actually introduced when a developer is just writing it. And so the concept of shifting left is really making sure that the feedback goes to the right person that actually introduces a change as close to the time that they're introducing it. That's for the code security. And when it comes to the security design and architecture, you ideally get security included when you build the application, when you design everything, so that when it comes out, then the first iterations are already baking and building the security aspects into this.
I love that. My key takeaway there is being more proactive in the security and guardrails that you have in place. Somebody asked on the question on the comment box, what are the skills and knowledge to get where you at right now? Wow, that's a toughie.
So that's a tough one. I mean, I think especially if you are a startup founder and you are essentially wearing so many hats. You know, when I shifted from being an entrepreneur, but on the consulting side of things, to being an entrepreneur on the software development and building a product side of things, the skill set is almost completely different. The only thing that you may keep is being able to speak to customers and presenting and all of these things. But how to build this kind of company is very, very different. So I think at the end of the day, you just have to be very much open to learning as much as possible, and being an open book in terms of taking a beginner's mindset to every problem that you have. Ideally, you surround yourself with mentors and coaches and other people that have been on a journey like that can really help you. But you have to be very humble, and you have to be very, very much focused on, dropping everything that you think you know, and being open to listen to the data and just trying to learn skills as quickly as possible. So I think one of the key things to pick up is trying to understand how to learn something that you don't know anything about, being somehow related to marketing or sales, or how to build a product, how to build a product roadmap, how to dive into a completely new technical topic. I think that is one of the most important part for that. Probably what doesn't really help much, which maybe is an unpopular opinion, is getting certifications, because they may give you something that sounds good, but you will notice very quickly that you really just have to do it. You have to do it. Okay, to make mistakes, iterate, get the feedback in, make sure you do better next time, and then try to just avoid as many mistakes as possible in the future that you have done before. And you know what they say, an expert, what is an expert? An expert is somebody that made all the mistakes possible in a certain narrow field. And so I think that sums it up. Exactly.
I like that. I love what you mentioned around being agile and wearing a beginner's mindset. And don't be scared to make mistakes, and surround yourself with people that can help you, coach you, and mentor you. Because a lot of times we wear this hat. I know this. I've done this before. This is the best path. But having the beginner's mindset would really help. Um, I know you've managed a lot of developers, builders in the past, given that this is your third startup. What is that key characteristic, skill that stand out that you think that this builder, this developer is really great. I like him because he exhibits this, this, and this. What are those characteristics that really stand out for you?
Oh, that's a very good one. Yeah, I think hiring is one of the most difficult and most important aspects of any startup and any company, really. What I've learned personally, I think the attribute or characteristic that is most important is that people are very much autonomous in the way that they operate. They hold
Okay.
themselves to a very high standard, and they're able to essentially take something you give them, but are able to essentially understand what it means, go back to you, really make sure that they understand what's going on and have a good communication, and are
Mhm.
willing to essentially do the heavy lifting and have a very, very high demand for quality for themselves. I think,
Right.
yeah,
That's really cool. Like autonomous accountability, right? And bias for action. And regardless how many
yes.
certificates you have, but if you don't have high quality, high standard for yourself and accountability for what you deliver, you won't make it as a great hireable developer or maybe a founder as well, right? Because being a founder, that's why you're a founder. You have account you are accountable for the outcome of the business or the success or the failure of the business. You touch a little bit around this. This B2B space, cybersecurity space is a very crowded, you know, space. How is your partnership with IMDA and Microsoft contributed to your maybe growth or success today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on the IMDA side of things, they've been really helpful inviting us to our conferences, giving us booths, introducing us to a lot of different stakeholders where we can demo, or even events like today, right, where we just get a chance to share a little bit and talk to potential customers or people that are interested in the space.
Yeah.
And for Microsoft, for example, they're also super helpful with providing credits for cloud usage. We even
Hmm.
have a dedicated contact that helps us with any questions that we have, so that they make sure that we are successful.
Yeah.
And you know, building any company or doing any startup is already in its own right quite a challenge. But
Yeah.
I think having partners like IMDA or Microsoft is really, really powerful, because you need all the help that you can get. And especially, having people out there that support you and that are there to give you access and all of these things that you need, and networks and all of these things, is just really, really helpful. And, it's a much nicer experience to be out there and do these kind of things if you know you have people that are actually genuinely happy to help. And so for that, yeah, very grateful, obviously. And I can recommend everybody that's trying this out there, try and reach out, try to get some support. And asking for help is a very important skill to have, because there are people out there and organizations out there that are very happy to help.
Yeah, like you are not in this journey alone. There are a lot of industry leaders that are there to back you up. And what I'm hearing all the time in the industry is being attached to these amazing industry leaders gives them boost in terms of their credibility in the market, especially landing whale customers or enterprise customers. All right, we have another question on the chat box. How would you understand the demand of AI security? Wow. Top movie scene. You're the most active there. Thank you for sending that question.
Yeah, thanks for that one. So I think the the answer to this is actually quite straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we look at how much time is currently spent by security engineers and software developers to actually look for vulnerabilities in code, or look for issues that you have, like trying to find out if this is a real issue or not, or how to fix it. It's actually, for developers, 1/3 of the time is actually being spent on that. And
Mm-hmm.
now I think what AI can really do for us, so how security, like AI applied to security, can help us or help developers and security engineers, is giving them that time back. And I think this is really, really powerful. How can you use all of these new technologies in a way that frees up developers, that frees up security engineers? It's almost like a digital immune system. When you get sick, you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to think about your immune system kicking in and doing certain things. You want the body to take care of it. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more and more. It's almost like what you see with self-driving cars. In the early days, you have to drive the whole thing, and now you sit in a Tesla or a Cruise or something like that, and they
Yeah.
can do many of these things, if not all of these things, already for you. which is great because this really helps reduce a lot of the burden for, the drivers, and makes everybody much safer and can, enjoy themselves much more in the process. And I think that's the same for security and how AI can help with that. I hope that answered the question correctly, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you did. Yes, I like what you said about removing the mundane task, right? It should be an instant. It should be expected to have something in place when it comes to security and without delaying, the productivity of the developers. I'm gonna ask a little bit of a toughy question here and getting a little bit personal, right? What is the most pivotal moment or decision that shaped Guardrails development? I know you mentioned earlier about integrating a lot of AI in your product roadmap these days. Um, what transpired? What made you made that decision? Tell us a
Mm.
little bit more about the history or any insights on that.
Yeah, I still remember that moment very much, right? Like, I think if you
Mm-hmm.
look at the first couple of years of Guardrails, was always very clearly, the roadmap was very much defined, and we know exactly what we have to build, how we have to improve it. And of course, more things come up, but they're more like naturally coming up when you talk to customers and these kind of things. But what you also get is essentially a very good understanding of what is the gap that the platform or all the solutions out there really are
Mm-hmm.
having at the moment, compared to what customers and users would actually love to get, right? And
Yeah.
so you start building and building and building and say, okay, you're raising the bar, but you realize that there's such a gap that is just not addressable with
Mm-hmm.
traditional approaches, right? And of course, there's improvements that have happened over time, but you still see it as like this chasm that is very, very difficult to cross. And
Yeah.
then, I still remember that was actually March last year when I
Okay.
realized that we can start using AI to our advantage, and
Yep.
really figure out how we can close this gap entirely and maybe go even beyond that. So suddenly it's even better than anybody could have ever imagined. And I think this moment is like realizing somebody has given you this magic wand that
Yeah.
allows you to now do things that you could only dream of before. And I
Yep.
think this was the point where, we realized there has to be a new path of achieving this. And it takes quite a lot of time, of course, to have this idea of what to build and how
Yep.
to actually make it better, and
Yeah.
really getting there as well. So it's been a quite interesting journey, but to be honest, one of the most impactful realizations in the entire history of Guardrails.
I love that. I love that. Sometimes it's a little bit scary that AI empowers everybody to be ahead of the innovation curve. But at the same time, you're scared as a founder that you're lagging in the innovation curve because everybody just already have access to these tools, right? How do you navigate
Mhm.
that? How are you staying not paranoid that somebody else will be building better product than yours?
I mean, you always have this kind of like in the back of
Uh-huh.
your head, oh my God, every time you see a news coming out that says something about AI and security, you're like, oh, did somebody do it now?
Yeah,
But to be honest, it goes back to the things that you can control and you cannot control, right?
I
Then,
see. Uh-huh.
um, like the way that we are looking at building this right now and what we're working
Yep.
on, it's very, very clear to us that if we achieve this, the
Uh-huh.
value creation is very, very large and very, very powerful, right? So
I love
we are
that.
really just focusing on achieving this as quickly as
Uh-huh.
possible, and making sure that the quality is very, very good. And
Uh-huh.
then even if somebody else does it, it's a big market out there, right? But I think it's
Yep.
it's going to be very, very difficult for only one player to capture everything. But
Yep.
I think it's going to be very, very powerful for new solutions to actually take a bigger part of the pie as well
Uh-huh.
than is currently possible. And so I think
Love that.
that's it. You just keep going and you just
Yes.
try your best to get this out and iterate with the customers. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's the best cue now to learn more about guardrails. I know that you prepared a little demo for us. I'm sure a lot of
Mhm.
our viewers, our builders, is very keen to understand how to get started with guardrails. So I'm gonna give the floor back to you to showcase guardrails superpower.
All right. Thank you very much, Julie. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna, so you should hopefully see my screen. And excuse me. So what I would like to do is give you a bit of a demo about what we've been up to with the new platform. And so what I'm doing here is now I'm going to show you a very quick example of how Guardrails AI is working. So I've just opened a pull request. So for the developers out there, you would be very familiar with this using GitHub. As you can see, it has already detected 28 new vulnerability candidates. And so what happens at the moment is we don't just detect vulnerabilities, which we already do in the current platform, but we, as you can see down here now, we are also auto triaging all of these issues automatically. So what that means is we are starting to use AI to understand the repository, understand the application underneath, and then we are starting to understand how these different possible vulnerabilities, whether they're actually relevant for this repository or not, or whether they're even vulnerabilities or not. And so as you can see here, actually quite quickly, took roughly a minute, you can see that now the Guardrails bot has commented what the issues are with this pull request. So as you can see here, this was actually, we can look at the more details, 80 files have been scanned. Out of these 80 files, or 79 files, there were 28 potential vulnerabilities. And we actually have identified only 5 vulnerabilities out of these 23. So what that means is our AI has now started resolving these 23 false positives, which if your team would have to do this manually, it would have probably taken around 60 odd hours. Because on average, it roughly takes 2 hours to identify and triage a vulnerability. So this is the first benefit, because our goal is to not just make sure that no vulnerability is overlooked, but we also want to make sure that the number of false positives goes as close to 0 as possible. And so what you can see here as well, we have detected 5 issues in these specific changes. And I'll go into this into more detail in a moment, but we also have used the AI to now propose automatically fixes for some of these issues here. So in the case where it's a simple fix, where you actually can understand what went wrong here, we can provide an automatic fix for you so that developers don't have to go and look up what is this issue, how do you fix it. But you can see here, this fixes the vulnerability by using parameterized queries to prevent the SQL injection. And you can see how it actually does this by using proper parameterized queries. And you could just go ahead and commit these changes right away. So this in its own right may seem simple, but the amount of time saved for developers already to this stage is incredible. And so you can see there's a few of these that we're able to fix automatically. But we can also now take a look at the dashboard and see how we can, what else we can do here. So as we log in here, we are now showing the dashboard of this new platform. And what you will also notice, you have here Nook, which is our AI security engineer, which is our AI essentially in the background doing all of these things. You can also see, and maybe make this a little bit bigger, you can see that this is actually giving you feedback like a human would in a chat message saying, hey, we have identified this kind of vulnerability in this line. And we can show you that it's vulnerable because on line 13, it uses string formatting directly to include user input in the query, which makes it susceptible to SQL injection attacks. And so that's not all. You also have the ability to actually see that there's 2 ways that attackers could actually reach this vulnerability. So for example, you could now go to the details here, where you have detailed analysis notes for this vulnerability. And even you can look at the entire data flow that exists, which is all used by a mixture of deterministic tools in combination with AI to make sure you get very good results. But as you can see, it gives you clearly the highlighted lines. It gives you the example of what's going on, and can show you that this is exploitable because input is coming from the request, to the query, which makes it an exploitable SQL injection here. So this is essentially where AI is really, really powerful by being able to give you all of these details very much in human language so that you can actually deal with this. And I'm just going to show you now one of the things that's really powerful. You can also, as you would expect it, now talk to your vulnerability. So you can say, explain this further. And this is now auto-generated here. Can you explain this vulnerability to me? So now, if you click on send here, you can see that we can now take the whole context of this vulnerability, and you can see how our AI now immediately communicates with us, telling us more about this vulnerability, what you need to do here, what this is, how does it happen, and why is this a problem. You can, of course, talk in any language that you want because it speaks even your local dialect. It doesn't matter. But it has all the context of this vulnerability, so you can do anything here. You can also ask whether you want to create a fix here. So we can essentially talk. We can talk to it very, very easily, like you would to a normal human, right? And so you can do this, and you will see essentially how it's able to communicate with you, like in a chat that you have with your security team. You can ask it any questions, and it would give you exactly the right fix that you need with explanation that you can iterate over anytime you want to find these things out. So this, I think, is really, really powerful because it really gives this shifting left right in the hands of a developer, and you can get information 24/7. Another important part is it doesn't have to stop with Nook. So we can have, for example, another team member called Barry and say, hey, do we need to fix this to remain compliant to PCI DSS? So you can start asking threat modeling questions. You can ask compliance questions, etc., etc. And as you can see here, this would be a very different expert that is available to you that gives you the details about PCI DSS requirements. And yes, you have to fix it. Otherwise, you are no longer compliant with this, and gives you everything you need here. So you have essentially now an AI security engineer, which I think is really, really where this is going. And of course, any fixes you can auto apply to the code change. You can get this into your IDE, etc., etc. And I want to show one last one to give you an idea of how this actually looks in vulnerabilities that are not exploitable. So you can see here the ones that are confirmed and the ones that are resolved. I'm just going to show you what this looks like for an example where typically other security solutions would give you a vulnerability because you would maybe have insecure cryptographic library like MD5. But because of the AI understanding the context of the application, the context of this flow, it will be able to tell you, oh, yes, you're using MD5 for generating a Gravatar hash in this case, which is actually something that's not security sensitive. Therefore, this does not constitute a vulnerability in this context. And so you can get the idea that now you have this team of security experts available for you 24/7 that looks at every change you make, gives you the right feedback, and make sure that you don't have to do all of the heavy lifting, but you get the advice you need to actually benefit from that. And so with this, I would like to close the demo. And Julie, over to you again.
Thank you so much, Stefan. That has been a super engaging demo. I love how you are using Gen AI to keep things smooth and very conversational, right? It's been fun learning about you and Guardrails. It's truly inspiring. We hope our builders who are watching us learned a thing or two from this very rich conversation. To wrap this up, I have one final question for you, Stefan. What is your call to action to our builders?
Like I said, now is the best time to be a builder. So go out there, find things that you're actually passionate about, and then, get started. And of course, I leave my contacts in the YouTube description as well. If you have any questions at all about either Guardrails or how to start a company, yeah, reach out to me there, and I'm very happy to help.
Thank you so much, Stefan. See you on the next round.
Thanks,
Bye for
Julie. Thanks
now.
for having me.
Thank you. If you find this helpful, please take this time to hit on the like and subscribe button or hit on the notify button. Please join us for our next one, Bytes and Builders with Okras. And I would like to take this chance to share with you our mission: empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. This includes startups. We want to enable founders to solve world problems and build a better future through Microsoft for Startups program. This program is designed to accelerate AI innovation and to support founders wherever they are on their startup journey. It's a dynamic platform and ecosystem supporting founders like you from the idea stage to development, grow, and scale stages. You can unlock tons of benefits and up to $150,000 Azure credit. You will also have access to heaps of development tools, including LinkedIn, Miro, OpenAI. So lots of good stuff. And I encourage you to check out Founders Hub. And the link is flashing on the screen. And you can also find Stefan's and IMDA contacts on the description box on this video. Finally, we encourage you to share your feedback on how we did today. You can do so on our Reactor YouTube channel straight after today's live stream. Your feedback is important to us so we can continuously improve on the contents we create for you. This has been your host, Julie Bulaklak. Thank you so much for taking the time and see you on the next episode. Bye.